Hello, everybody. It is my honor to welcome Dr. Lynda Ulrich, the founder of Ever Widening Circles and my mother, to the stage to open up our conference and set the whole scene for the day to come. Since founding Ever Widening Circles 6 years ago and going from ordinary web user to running a global media company, she has learned a lot about the internet, our digital lives, and how all of this is having an impact on our outlook on the world. She's going to speak to us about the story behind the conspiracy of goodness and why now more than ever we are able to take hold of this roller coaster ride of emotions that the internet has taken us on and give us back the power of our digital lives. This is a wonderful keynote that I am very excited she's able to give and help us set the stage for the day to come. You are all part of the conspiracy of goodness, and you'll hear why in a second.
Once there was a world where many of us had peace of mind, and we could see a path forward to a brighter future. Not all of us, but some of us could imagine a future where we and our communities could do way more than just survive. There was the possibility of thriving and reaching our full potential. And even if you're not lucky enough to live in one of those communities, most of us still had hope for a future where good intention, cooperation, and ingenuity mattered. But now we're all living in a world that feels more chaotic and negative every day because of the influence of the internet, social media, and the 24-hour news cycle. And we seem to have reached a tipping point. But there is a way forward. And it doesn't have to involve tuning out all those things, but making them better. We can open a new era with exactly what we have right now. And the first thing you need to know is that the internet is only a slice of reality. There is an enormous wave of progress and goodness well underway in the world that almost no one knows about. And we're calling that wave a conspiracy of goodness. In fact, if you're at this conference, it's probably because you are already a charter member there, even if you've never thought about it that way. I'm Dr. Lynda Ulrich, founder of Ever Widening Circles, where my team and I have been working since 2013 to shine a light on remarkable insight and innovation. We're on a mission to change the negative dialogue about our times by proving it is still an amazing world. Today, the Ever Widening Circles team and a few of our closest friends will take us all on a journey of possibility. Today, we will start to turn the page on this divisive chapter of history. Consider this first Conspiracy of Goodness Summit a shaft of light that you can follow and share with others to find a way out of all this doom and gloom. We are going to have to be the heroes in our own stories as we walk through this darkness and usher in a better world. But today we're going to bring together some guides, 11 thought leaders from wildly different fields who are donating their time to point the way to less fear, more joy, and a brighter future for us all. In each of their endeavors, they have found a way to live with their shoulders against an icy wind and still love the world they see around them. They found a way to appreciate their fellow man and woman, no matter how different they think. And they have learned to turn contempt into curiosity. They know the most important constructs came through a crucible of conflict. We're there now. But these thought leaders see with absolute clarity all that is possible. And they will teach us some of their tips for coping and thriving in order to get us out of this mess. We have gathered to celebrate and start seeing all the joy, awe, and wonder that still exists in the world. Once we have the skills, we can start celebrating those three things, joy, awe, and wonder, and they will rise to the surface for others on the internet, social media, and even the 24-hour news cycle. Today's event is like all of us together tossing a pebble into a pond, and goodness will go out in ever widening circles. We may never know the shores that those waves land on, but to be sure, we will be changing the future for many. So thank you for joining us. Please allow me to open this conference with the original story of the conspiracy of goodness. And all that I've just said will make a lot more sense. Here's the story. Not many people know that during World War II, the small village of Le Chambon, France, saved 3,500 Jews from the Nazi concentration camps. Without any formal organization and at great risk to their own lives, the villagers managed to hide thousands of strangers, many of them orphans, for several years. Now, in 1987, Rabbi Harold Schulweis was giving a talk in Europe about this chapter of World War II, which he called the conspiracy of evil. And at the end of his talk, an old man stood up to say that he had been one of the Dutch rescuers who had hidden a Jewish family. And the old man asked, why does everyone focus on the conspiracy of evil that was World War II? The old man said, do you think I could have hidden an entire Jewish family in my own home without the active cooperation of the milkman, the mailman, and the neighbors? No, the old man said. For every one person saved, there were 7 who were rescuers. There was, he said, a conspiracy of goodness. Nice, huh? I get goosebumps every time I tell that story. When I first read that story, I was rooted to the ground. All the signs of goodness and progress I'd seen in my own community and with the Ever Widening Circles over the past few years came flooding back. All the thought leaders I'd spoken to, all the hours I'd spent at Ever Widening Circles team meetings, pitching positive articles to each other. Suddenly, it was as if all the pieces of a great puzzle were beginning to fit together. And they were revealing a new picture of the future. I believe the story of Le Chambon is but one example of a process that has served us throughout human history. That the conspiracy of goodness is a pattern which has repeated itself over and over. This may be the way that social change happens, almost imperceptibly at first. When one by one we start quietly turning away from some prevailing trend because it offends us somewhere at our core. Does that explain your feeling of overwhelm and disgust when you spent your entire lunch hour scrolling through hundreds of mediocre, meaningless, or just plain mean pieces of internet content recently? Think about it for a minute. Humans have a habit of adopting practices that eventually collapse under the weight of the chaos they create. Has the internet created enough chaos? Are we now in need of a shift in how we think about our online lives? Once we do that, we can leap forward in our way of thinking and a new era will open. History is brimming with examples. Take the practice of the gladiators fighting each other to the death in the Colosseums as crowds cheered on. That made total sense to Romans in the year 50 AD. And eventually, it didn't. It's the same with slavery and child labor and segregation, apartheid, and denying women the right to vote. All those things made perfect sense to many until one day they didn't. And here's what my instinct tells me. All those merciless practices eventually became so at odds with what makes us human, compassion, kindness, and our reverence for beauty, that ordinary individuals quietly started taking steps away from those practices. They were following a common compass, a compass for compassion. In Le Chambon and in all the other historical circumstances I mentioned, person after person did what they could do to balance their actions and beliefs with their humanity. Together, they formed a quiet but powerful conspiracy of goodness that, like a rising tide, created a new norm that lifted everyone up. Perhaps the way you and I are privately taking actions against the overwhelming negativity is at the heart of the conspiracy of goodness for our times. Are we conspiring against the chaos builders? Quietly taking matters into our own hands when it comes to trying to make the world a better place? The answer is yes. We are doing the things we can do to tune all that negative out, and that qualifies as a positive conspiracy. As it turns out, the word conspiracy is derived from the Latin word conspirare, which means to agree. If you break conspirare down, you're going to get con, which means together, and spirare, which means to breathe. Breathe together. That seems to be a delightful way to describe what people are quietly doing right now when they decide to be kinder than they need to be in their daily lives. This chapter in history has brought out some of our best impulses too. Instead of holding our breath and waiting for someone else to come along and make a difference, it seems that many of us have informally agreed to do what we can do to breathe life into a better shared future. Ordinary people like you and I are doing brilliant, quiet things, just like the milkman, the mailman, and the neighbors in Le Chambon. I believe we are breathing life into a new era together, and we don't even realize it yet. At the end of this conference, you will see that we don't personally have to go out and save the rainforest, or build a school, or teach a blind person to see with sound. But we can support those people that are doing that. And the world gets better every day with more momentum in a new direction. Now, enjoy our speakers, engage with their insights, and support their projects wildly. And you will be just like the milkman, the mailman, and the neighbors. You will be a conspirator with all of us as part of a wave of progress. We can thrive, even with the knowledge that the world is full of tragedy and imperfection, if we make goodness viral too. Happiness is an option, and we're here today to learn how we get there. Welcome.